In the early 21st century, the world is reeling from a devastating Third World War. The remnants of humanity establish Libya, a city under the iron grip of the totalitarian Tetragrammaton Council. Here, citizens are compelled to undergo daily injections of prosium-2, a substance that stifles emotions and enforces compliance. Art and pets, potential triggers of feelings, are outlawed, and those who defy this decree are branded sense offenders and face execution, as the council blames emotions for past conflicts. To enforce these draconian laws, the council forms a cadre of highly trained enforcers called clerics, proficient in a lethal martial art known as gun kata. Beyond the city limits lies the desolate Nether, a haven for illicit activities. Presently, clerics John and Errol, along with their elite unit, embark on a mission to confront the latest insurgency from a faction called the Underground. The team stumbles upon a group of rebels barricaded within a building. While the rest engage in a firefight outside, John strides in, dual-wielding guns. He stands resolute in the darkness, impervious to the rebels' onslaught. When the gunfire subsides, John employs gun kata, a technique guided by geometry and psychology, ensuring precise strikes while evading return fire. Once the rebels are vanquished, the team conducts a search for contraband. Beneath the floorboards, they unearth a staggering trove of art, including the priceless Mona Lisa. After authenticating the pieces, John commands his men to set fire to it all. During the return to headquarters, John notices Errol with a book and inquires about it. Errol explains he's safeguarding it off the official records to avoid complications. Meanwhile, Father, the enigmatic leader, addresses the populace through omnipresent screens, extolling the virtues of prosium and attributing peace to the system. Although Father's visage is omnipresent, his physical presence remains a distant memory. Upon reaching headquarters, John promptly briefs Vice Consul DuPont, earning commendation. DuPont queries how a cleric has honed the ability to discern profound emotions. John elucidates that it stems from understanding his adversaries. The conversation shifts to John's family, and he starkly reveals that his wife was apprehended and incinerated for being a sense offender years prior. DuPont chastises him, asserting that a cleric should have detected such transgressions within his own household. Later, while reviewing the mission footage, John notices Errol's suspicious behavior. Investigating further, he discovers that Errol hasn't logged any evidence in weeks, including the recent book. Determined to uncover the truth, John returns to the Nether, finding Errol absorbed in the forbidden tome within a long-forgotten church. When John confronts Errol, a poignant exchange unfolds. Errol bemoans the loss of humanity's core essence, asserting that he'd willingly trade peace for the return of emotions. An attempt by Errol to reach for his weapon is swiftly countered by John, resulting in Errol's demise. Before departing, John reverently places the book over Errol's visage. Soon after, he encounters Brant, Errol's replacement, who expresses aspirations of emulating John's prowess. Returning home, John's son, Robbie, recounts a troubling encounter with a weeping boy and contemplates reporting it to the authorities. Interestingly, despite their filial bond, Robbie addresses John by his name, eschewing Dad. Later, in his slumber, John is ensnared by a haunting reverie of the day his wife was apprehended. He initially resists two officers but acquiesces upon learning of her status as a sense offender. As she departs, she imparts a farewell kiss, entreating John to remember her, all witnessed by their children. The following morn, a mishap befalls John as his prosium veil shatters. Robbie, observant of the incident, dutifully reminds his father to acquire a replacement from the Equilibrium Center. However, upon arrival, John discovers the center's temporary closure due to terrorist activity. Brant arrives to escort him on a mission, unaware of John's unfulfilled dosage. The two proceed to raid the residence of a woman named Mary. A stark reminder of his wife momentarily paralyzes John, but he swiftly rebounds. Following Brant's destruction of a mirror, the team uncovers a cache of contraband. A desperate turn of events ensues as Mary seizes an officer's firearm, aiming it at John. Brant readies to neutralize her, but John intervenes, recognizing her potential value for intelligence on the underground. Subsequently, Mary is transported for questioning. Inquiring about the rebels, John encounters Mary's philosophical probing into his raison d'etre. John contends that his purpose is sustaining societal equilibrium, but Mary challenges this as a circular rationale. In the ensuing night, John forgoes his injection and witnesses Errol's incineration, only to awaken from a distressing nightmare. He's overcome by a peculiar sensation, peeling away the tint on his window to witness the inaugural sunrise. Overwhelmed by emotions like awe, he rushes to the syringe gun but cannot bring himself to administer the injection. On his way to work, he purposefully shatters several prosium vials, rendering them useless. At headquarters, he makes subtle adjustments to his workspace, catching Brant's attention. Their next assignment leads them to sense offenders in the Nether, culminating in a fierce firefight. During the skirmish, a man makes a move on John, prompting Brant to dispatch him. In the aftermath, as John cradles the fallen assailant, an inadvertent lock of eyes unveils the ebbing of life. John, perturbed by this newfound perception, hastily releases the body, only to be further disconcerted by the sight of blood staining his hands. Amidst the chaos, as the officers ruthlessly dispatch the rebels, John stumbles upon a concealed chamber teeming with forbidden items. Among them, he unearths a vinyl record of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which he proceeds to play. The resonant strains prompt an overwhelming surge of emotion, leading to an unanticipated cascade of tears. After this brief interlude, the team incinerates everything, and Brant notes John's retention of a book. Recalling Errol, John assures that he'll record it personally. An unexpected discovery is announced, a cache of animals, specifically puppies. Puzzled by the existence of such creatures in the house, some even entertain the notion that the rebels may have consumed them. In a heart-wrenching turn, Brant commands the execution of the dogs. John, torn, attempts to intercede, but unable to formulate a compelling rationale, he reluctantly assents. Amidst the grim act, a lone puppy evades the onslaught and seeks refuge with John. Cradling the fragile creature, he's taken aback as it affectionately licks his face. When an officer attempts to reclaim the pup, John defies, asserting it requires examination for potential diseases. In the aftermath, John confronts Vice Consul DuPont, advocating for the arrest and interrogation of rebels instead of their outright execution. However, DuPont discloses that Father has issued a decree mandating the immediate eradication of rebels upon sight. Later, while observing Mary, John requisitions her personal effects. Among them, he discovers a ribbon, which he chooses to clandestinely retain. That evening, he ventures to the Nether, unaware of Brant tailing him. Engaging with the pup, he attempts to release it, only for it to persistently follow. John, offering his jacket, shares a fleeting moment of warmth. However, officers converge, demanding identification. Having left it in his coat, John's car keys are confiscated, bringing them perilously close to discovering the pup. A fortunate recognition saves John from immediate scrutiny. In the morning, John conceals his prosium vials behind the bathroom mirror, departing for work. The day calls for sword training, and Brant joins in a spirited duel. Their skills prove strikingly comparable, with Brant provocatively alluding to John's preoccupation with the mysterious Nether incidents. He expresses satisfaction at the officer's demise, anticipating an intensified crackdown on rebels. The match culminates in a stalemate, followed by a mission to a new sector in the Nether. Amidst the ensuing chaos, John encounters a group of rebels and opts to grant them reprieve. Guiding them through peril, they soon confront officers. John engages them without hesitation, affording the rebels an opportunity to escape. Following a fierce battle in which John vanquishes the officers, he seeks out the rebels, only to find them apprehended. Brant, asserting foresight in John's actions, orders the rebels' execution. He even tenders his weapon to John, who ultimately relinquishes it. As the command is carried out, John steps away to maintain a veneer of detachment. Later, John confers with DuPont, expressing his readiness to serve as Father's instrument against the resistance. This leads to a directive to dismantle the underground. Subsequently, he visits the morgue to express remorse to Errol's remains for his momentary doubt. While examining Errol's belongings, a photograph bearing the word "freedom" captures John's attention. Rushing to Mary, he confronts her about her connection with Errol. When she feigns ignorance, John unveils the damning photograph, revealing her intimate ties to Errol. Incensed, Mary seizes a pen, launching herself at John with intent to strike. In a heart-wrenching altercation with Mary, John's recollections of his wife are triggered. Captivated by a photograph bearing the word "freedom," he remembers the Freedom Reading Room, where a teacher imparts revolutionary wisdom to young minds. With a newfound lead, John coerces information from the teacher, discovering a connection to a man named Jürgen. John's journey leads him to the underground, where he encounters a clandestine world replete with the beauty and freedom denied by Libria's oppressive regime. Subjected to a polygraph test, John's emotions flare uncontrollably when Mary is mentioned, betraying his deeply suppressed feelings. Jürgen advises him that his emotional void can only be filled by allowing himself to fall for Mary. The revelation, however, is tinged with the tragic knowledge that Mary is slated for incineration. Returning to headquarters, John is promptly accosted by guards and summoned to DuPont's presence. Suspicions regarding John's discontinuation of prosium surface, prompting a tenuous exchange. Upon his return home, John furtively stores his vials. A surprising moment transpires when Robbie, now awake, addresses John as Dad. The next day, John visits Mary, who discerns his deviation from prosium. Touching his hand, she offers a silent comfort. Later, John confers with Jürgen, declaring the assassination of father an insurmountable task due to the strict isolation surrounding him. Nonetheless, Jürgen asserts that John, uniquely trained, holds the key to the rebels' ultimate triumph. Upon witnessing preparations for Mary's execution, John is moved to locate footage of his wife's demise. A video unveils John's stoicism as his wife faced incineration. Resolved to amend this grave failing, John races to the incineration room but arrives too late. The turbines have already been set in motion, and any interference risks a catastrophic explosion. Devastated, John flees, only to be apprehended by Brandt. Accused of complicity with Mary in the Nether murders, John is brutally beaten before being presented before DuPont. In a startling turn, John shifts the blame to Brandt, invoking his mission to expose the traitor among the clerics. Evidence points to Brandt as the true perpetrator, and a tense standoff ensues. Brandt's deception is unveiled when John reveals that they'd exchanged weapons. Amidst the turmoil, John voices agreement to the search of his residence. Robbie's intervention preserves John's hidden vials, exposing a clandestine defiance against the regime. In a daring move, John orchestrates a plan to ensnare the rebels and gains an audience with Father. However, during the final test, a shocking revelation unravels. Father is none other than DuPont, who's been masquerading for years. Incensed, John unleashes his concealed weapons, dispatching the council with deadly precision. Vowing vengeance, he embarks on a relentless rampage, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. Determined, he sets his sights on DuPont, poised for a final, cataclysmic confrontation. In a climactic confrontation, John finally faces DuPont, flanked by Brandt as his formidable bodyguard. The room erupts into chaos as John dispatches guards with lethal precision. Engaging Brandt in a deadly sword fight, John abandons their training restraint, executing swift strikes that culminate in Brandt's gruesome demise, his face severed. As DuPont seizes a gun, a harrowing duel ensues. Initially evenly matched, John's superior skill soon gains the upper hand. Overwhelmed, DuPont pleads for his life, revealing his own suppressed emotions. Yet, this plea falls on deaf ears as John, unrelenting, delivers the fatal shot. Before exiting the building, John obliterates the machines perpetuating Father's propaganda. This defiant act sparks a chain reaction among the rebels, who embark on a frenzied campaign, bombing prosium factories en masse. The oppressive regime that once held sway over Libria now teeters on the brink of collapse.